Good morning. My name is Patty Daniel. I'm one of the practitioners here at the temple, and I'm giving the Dharma talk this morning. As many of you know, this year marks the 15th anniversary of the Chapel Hill Temple. So in recognition of that, we thought we would do a few Dharma talks on the most important doctrines of Won Buddhism. In our main scripture book, the principal book of Won Buddhism, a doctrinal chart is found in the very front of the book. It serves as a succinct guideline of our most important doctrines. Here it is. You can't see this most likely, but right here is a section called the Four Essentials. Master Soto-san considered the Four Essentials to be necessary for creating an equitable society. The Four Essentials are: 1, developing self-power; 2, the primacy of the wise; 3, educating the children of others; and 4, venerating the public-spirited. 2 weeks ago, Reverend Wang Gong spoke about educating others' children. Today, I'm going to talk about the first one, developing self-power. Buddhism has long emphasized that a person can develop one's spiritual self through one's own practice, and that through inner strength, determination, and dedication, one can attain enlightenment or Buddhahood. This reliance on one's own effort as a way to awakening is known as self-power. In contrast is the Buddhist concept of other power, the reliance on external support, the reliance on heaven and earth and fellow beings to further our practice and our wisdom. In Won Buddhism, the founding teacher, Master Soto-san, taught the benefit of relying on both self-power and other power and finding the best possible balance between the two. He said, quote, "Believing in the three jewels also involves the two categories of self-powered belief and other-powered belief. Other-powered belief means literally believing in and worshiping the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. Those are the three jewels. The Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha that have actually appeared in this world. Self-powered belief means discovering the Buddha and the Dharma that are within one's own self-nature and inwardly believing in and practicing them. These categories become the foundation for each other. So self-powered and other-powered belief must develop in tandem." He emphasized that faith in EunHyeWha song, one circle image, or faith in the truth, can be, quote, "the motive force for practicing the right Dharma through our cultivation of self-power and our correct acceptance of other power." Master Chong-san, our second head Dharma master, said, quote, "Self-power and other power are inseparably related. Some people overemphasize other power and stubbornly insist on faith alone. Others overemphasize self-power and insist that, since mind is the Buddha, there is no need for precepts or the principles. My introduction to Buddhism was through John Kabat-Zinn's mindfulness-based stress reduction course. It's a 6-week course in which meditation is the main instruction. It was offered at my workplace, it was free, and even though I didn't much understand at the time why I was doing it or what I was doing, after the course was over, I kept up a regular meditation practice with determination and dedication. I often kind of wondered during the course of what we were doing, and when I would ask that question, the response was always, "Well, I can't really tell you, you just do it." Having been born into one of the most individualistic cultures in the history of humankind, and greatly valuing my self-reliance, I thought that if I meditated long enough and read enough books about enlightenment, I could find it on my own. But then I more or less just stumbled into this one Buddhist temple, and I came to realize that no amount of self-power would be sufficient. With the help of skilled and wise teachers, compelling scriptures, and fellow Sangha members, the three jewels, I began to see that I'm not a completely self-contained unit, entirely separate from creation. But self-power is what kept me consistent in my meditation practice, even when I wasn't clear what it was or why I was doing it. Only much later did I come to understand its benefits. Thus, a degree of self-sufficiency in exerting myself with effort and dedication was what led me to this temple and towards a path of spiritual development. Master Sotaesan said that the core tenet of developing self-power means to rely on self-power as the basic principle, even while relying on both self-power and other power together. Relying on both self-power and other power together is necessary because, for example, when we believe that we have attained anything purely by ourselves, we are in danger of failing to realize that the separation between self and others is a dualistic illusion. And if we look at the immediate world around us, we quickly see that everything we think we possess is directly or indirectly a result of others. Probably an overly zealous self-power will fail to sustain itself anyway in the long run. But on the other hand, even the most intuitive and spiritually developed person will probably need the discipline and strength of self-motivation and self-power to progress on the path. In the Four Essentials section in the One Buddhist Canon, in the part about self-power, Master Sotaesan goes beyond spiritual power and also talks about self-reliance as a social and cultural practice. He starts by stating the main principle, which is that our aim to develop self-power is not only for ourselves, but also to help others. Unless we are, quote, helpless infants, decrepit oldsters, or seriously ill, we must develop our self-power as a practice so as to give help to those whose circumstances leave them in need. He saw that certain cultural practices in the past had been hindering self-sufficiency and causing needless dependency. He observed, for example, that in the past, some family members lived idly, depending on their more well-off relatives to support them, and that inheritances were often frequently distributed inequitably. Likewise, he observed, and I quote, "In the past, women, prevented from obtaining an education like that of men due to unequal rights, were forced to depend upon their parents in their youth, their husbands after marriage, and their children in old age. A woman was constrained in whatever she did or did not do with her own body and mind," end quote. When I first read this book, this statement really jumped off the page for me. I think it is so amazing, and that was written, approximately 100 years ago. What wisdom. But that was in the past, he states, and now we must seek self-reliance in all that we do. He encourages us not to support those who can support themselves. And he gives advice about inheritances and financial independence in marriage. For example, quote, "After marriage, each spouse should maintain financial independence. The primary concern should go beyond love alone and extend also to fulfilling their respective duties and responsibilities. Now, that's some really good advice. We should handle all matters according to the circumstances and the law and not discriminate between men and women as in the past. He gives examples of being financially self-reliant so as not to be dependent on friends and family, and exhorts his followers, men and women alike, to work diligently at their occupation to gain freedom in their lives, sharing responsibilities and duties towards the family and the nation. Many of you are familiar with the essential dharmas of daily practice. They are listed in our chanting booklets. It's a list of 9 important things to practice daily. One of them is, quote, let us turn dependency into self-reliance. As we cycle through different stages in our lives, our balance between dependence and independence may shift. However, physical, financial, mental, and spiritual self-reliance, to the maximum extent of our abilities, must be our goal. Master Chungsan, as I mentioned before, the second head Dharma master, said, quote, from the standpoint of everyday life, make self-power the basic principle in order to fulfill the duties and responsibilities incumbent on human beings. In the realm of the spirit, too, it means to make faith and self-power the basic principle so that we may become our own masters in whatever faith we adopt, in whatever practice we pursue, and in whatever enterprise we devote ourselves to. Master Seja-san recognized that when we try to accomplish something, we may need to use our self-power because we often receive approval or criticism from others. When criticized, he said, we must examine the situation, and if our conscience tells us that there is no reason to stop, we must proceed with indomitable courage. On the other hand, however broad the approval, if our conscience tells us to do something we should not do, then, quote, don't hesitate to throw it out like an old shoe. When I think about how often we are led into mental, emotional, or financial dependency by a desire for approval or fear of disapproval, I take this to be sound advice indeed. My hope is that we will use this pandemic as an opportunity to slow down and examine our deepest values and actualize our self-power in order to help both ourselves and others. May you be well, may you be safe, and may you be powerful.